What's up?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, sound great, man. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, wait.
I'm all over the place here. It's windy.
All good.
I'm in my my in-laws' house backyard.
Wow, it looks gorgeous. I see palm trees.
Yeah, we're in San Diego. They live like on the top of a hill, so it's good. It's this really dope background.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Where are you guys at?
We're in Chicago. We're at our studio, which is in our one of our managers' offices. It's really
rad.
There's a bank vault right there.
Yeah, literally a bank vault. And that's the vocal booth.
Really? That's rad.
Yeah, it's pretty
really
cool.
Rad. Yeah. Are you guys both from Chicago?
No, Drew is from Michigan. He's from Ann Arbor, and I'm from Indiana, McCordsville.
Okay. So, Caleb, where'd you grew up in Ann Arbor, you said? Or no, vice versa?
Drew
grew up in Ann Arbor. Tell me about that, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the first 17 years of my life there. Went to some pretty bomb-ass public schools, I will say.
Really?
It's funny. It kind of played a huge part in my musical upbringing because the arts are fortunately so well supported in Ann Arbor. So there's a very thriving community of artists as well as arts in the public schools between orchestra, band, musical theater. All of that definitely pushed me more into this idea of like music as a potential career and whatnot. So that drove me to Columbia College, Chicago, which is where I met Caleb.
Oh, okay. So how did you get into music originally?
It's funny. So music, I don't come from a family of musicians per se, but I come from a family that loves music. And being around it all the time as a kid, between my mom listening to like Grandmaster Flash and Michael Jackson, and my dad's listening to Pink Floyd and The Who, I just kind of fell in love with it from a young age. And then at some point I discovered GarageBand when I was around like 5th or 6th grade. And I started making these really terrible demos and like songs within GarageBand. And that just kind of continued to grow into me continually tinkering with audio devices and all sorts of musical things. And yeah, I mean, through doing orchestra, musical theater, and playing in bands as a kid and doing the tinkering and nerdy audio shit that people hate, I ended up here as a producer. So yeah, it's kind of a weird backstory.
That's amazing.
Not just a producer, but a basically a frontman in a band. Are there frontmen in our band?
I don't know. we're like two faces. We're a two-face type scenario.
Drew's definitely much more active than I am on stage. That's why I say that.
Okay.
He's got a little bit more of the moves, and I'm just like spaghetti that can sing decently.
I'm the hips, he's the voice. You know.
I get it. I love that. All right, Caleb. So tell me about growing up in Indiana.
It was great. Lots of corn.
Yeah.
Corn with a C.
Dig it. A lot of places to catch music, or no?
There was a couple places, but there wasn't anything in abundance, you know.
Sure.
I had a pretty supportive household to music. When I initially started doing it, I got like 2 months or 3 months or something of guitar lessons from this guy named Kyle. And I was doing it because my little brother was doing guitar lessons. At the time, I had wanted to go into the military, but I found out when I was first day of senior year in high school that I was a type 1 diabetic, which is this thing on my arm.
Oh my gosh. Type 1 is you're not born with, right? Or are you born with type 1?
You were born with it somewhere in your genes. Yes. Type 2 is diabetes of the liver and of the muscles, and type 3 is Alzheimer's. Type 1 is just a genetic condition that happens.
Okay.
So anyway, we can get out off of the medical side of this.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I like explaining that. It's good for people to know. It's often misrepresented in Hollywood, so I like talking about that. So I was talking about getting into music.
Mm-hmm.
I took guitar lessons. My little brother was taking it. I thought it was cool. I had a change in reality on what I could do and what I wanted to do. And so I went to school for audio production. I met Drew. I had a band when I met Drew, but Drew coming into the band sort of changed because we were writing songs directly together. So, and that's where we are now.
Wow. So you guys met in what, a class or something?
At a party.
At a party. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
on Tinder.
On Tinder. I know it's funny that you're cutting it out, but what's funny is I had an interview with somebody else earlier this week, and they told me that people were using Tinder to find band members and stuff, like using it as like a band, like I play bass, like join my band. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
I love that. That's a great way to meet people. I mean, honestly, it's good because you'll also have similar likings, so you won't totally hate each other after, living in a vehicle together for weeks on end. True.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, you guys met in college at a party, and then what happened from there? You guys just kind of realized you had similar musical interests, or
so two things were
forming
going
the
on.
Group.
Definitely. So two things were going on. One, we had a member of my band at the time was moving back to California, and so we needed somebody to come in and play bass. Or no, they weren't available to play bass. And so Drew came in. Drew's kind of versatile, and so he played bass at the show. And it was after the show, like Drew just got all the music right away, and he knew a lot more than a lot of us did. And I was like, man, this guy doesn't need us. We need this guy. And so I invited him to the band. And then also at the same time, Drew and I were working on something that I was doing on my own. And Drew and I, through doing that, realized that we wrote really well together. And it just moved into this place of meeting the right people, kind of being in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And we've been very lucky since, and we got a great team behind us. So that's great. Why we are where we are now.
Yeah.
Talking to you people. Yeah.
So you said you were in a band before starting this project. Was that band, like, were you taking it really seriously? Were you guys doing a bunch of shows and tours and stuff?
So I think a lot of people will identify with this. That band was the original Friday Pilots Club. And
okay.
Right. And we were doing something way different. And it's fun stuff. We still play some of the songs. We've actually redone some of the songs that we played back then. It was just a matter of opportunism, where we were all in the right place at the right time, but everybody was studying different things in college. They were studying film and, acting and stuff like that. It was an art school. And so as people started to realize that they really did want to go after these other things, it just became, apparent to us that Drew and I were kind of in the corner, like, yeah, we really want to do this. We really want to go after this. And so it, we reformed the band, and we reformed it with some of our best friends in the world. And we're just very lucky. The other three guys that play with us are, I give this example all the time. Two of them were in the first band that I ever saw when I moved to Chicago.
Oh, wow. They were in the band that you went to go see?
Yeah, it was called Bullfights on Acid, which is a line from Caddyshack.
Sure. Really, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's funny to look back on that, because I looked up on that stage and I was like, man, I can't imagine ever playing with these guys. They're so good. And
now they're in your band. How about
that? I got them.
You got them. So when you guys first decided to start working together, like what were you guys writing? What were you putting together? Did any of those songs see the light of day?
Yeah, it's funny. The first song Caleb and I ever wrote together was the first track we released through Big Machine called Glory.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was the kind of thing that sort of solidified it in both our minds, that like we had something really special. Because I think from the moment we had Glory, it was like, okay, there's something real here. There's something really tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb and I recognized the sort of symbiotic relationship we had. But then I think what really kind of helped drive that point home was the summer of 2017. We went to work with this producer, John Fields, in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And John is amazing. He's mega talented, multi-instrumentalist, musical guru type figure. He's worked with Switchfoot and Busted, Demi Lovato, Jonas Brothers, Miley Cyrus.
Wow.
Like, he's done a ton, as well as like newer stuff like Corey Wong. And we kind of took these really early demos of the first songs Caleb and I had ever written together to John Fields. And John was able to kind of finesse things and show us not only how to be a band and how to like work as a two-piece, but also how to be a band in the studio and how to work in a studio and how to finesse the writing process. And that was huge in our growth into getting where we are now.
John Fields is sort of the godfather.
The godfather of your band. That's cool. So you said Glory was the first song that you guys wrote, but it doesn't look like it was the first thing that you guys put out, right? Did you wait on the release of that song?
Yeah, it's a weird thing with the process of songs. I'm sure you know, and with the amount of people you've talked to, but it's like, it's weird because you can recognize like, oh, this is a really good song, but it doesn't exist in its like final form yet. Mm-hmm. So even though that was the first one we wrote, the first one we ended up putting out as like Friday Pilots Club 2.0, as we might call it, was End of It, which came maybe a month or so after that we had written Glory.
Okay.
But yeah, so we did End of It and then a couple other songs, but what really sent Glory over the edge was working with Dom Crake from Nothing But Thieves.
Oh, you got to work with him. Cool.
Yeah, we met him outside of a show at the Metro in Chicago, and he heard Glory and he wanted to kind of tinker with it. And Dom made that song what it is today. So kind of once again, like, that was the moment of recognizing, okay, this is Glory's final form. It's ready to like go to the world.
Oh, okay. So he took that original track from prior and then added his little ear candy and re-released it for you guys, or you guys re-released or not re-released, you just released it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is funny too. That song has been through so many iterations, and Dom approached it in a way I think Caleb and John and I would have never thought of approaching it, which just kind of speaks to the power of collaboration. But yeah, I mean, it became something really powerful. So
that's great. Yeah, it looks like so you guys were putting out singles in the beginning, and then While You Wait, is that like an EP? Because I know it's 3 songs. Is that considered? Is that your first EP?
Yeah, I guess so. While You Wait is interesting because it was almost an experiment in patience, and that kind of plays into the name. Was that, we did Glory, we toured on that with radio support, and like we're so thankful that Glory did well at radio and that there were so many radio stations who were willing to support it and whatnot. But as that kind of tapered off and we were getting ready to do the next record, which is going to come out, the label was like, well, we need something to go to, our DSPs, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Tidal, etc., to just kind of like keep them occupied. So let's do a covers EP. So While You Wait was this sort of experiment in, all right, we're going to do a covers EP of 80 songs that we don't necessarily know, and we're just going to try to make them Friday Pilots Club. So While You Wait was the first EP, and I guess a sign of things to come, because it was us in this room, entirely self-produced, self-recorded, and just kind of good old Chicago and Midwestern boys fucking around with rock music, trying to make something cool.
That's awesome.
It definitely was confusing for people that were following the band. They were like, "Oh, we thought we were, getting original music or a full-length record at this point." But I hope, if I could say one thing to follow that up, first of all, I hope you enjoyed that, people that were listening, because those are great songs. Not necessarily our production, but like, Iggy Pop and Echo and the Bunnymen. And what was the other band?
What, Iggy Pop, Echo and the Bunnymen.
Psychedelic Furs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it was also like so much goes into a record, whatever you're doing. And some people are able to crank it out very, very fast. But like Drew is a producer, and we are very particular about what we do. And I hope people should, going forward and hearing like what's coming out on Friday, people should understand that this is not just like spur of the moment. The idea of the song might be spur of the moment, but everything else that goes into it is so complex. There are business elements of everything that, your favorite artist does. And we had to, pay our respects and I guess pay our dues and make sure that we were moving responsibly.
Very cool. So you have a new project coming out on Friday.
It is single number 1.
Okay.
Undisclosed amount of songs.
Gotcha.
But there is a record done, but Friday will be the first single. It's called Breaking My Bones. It's a banger, if I will say so myself. But yeah, it is a turning point for the band, I would say. Yes.
By turning point, is the song going to be different than what we've previously heard with earlier Friday Pilots Club songs?
Yeah, it's super different. And I think if you go back and you listen to the rest of the back catalog, you kind of hear like every song is a little different. Like there are through threads, I think Caleb's voice and the songwriting and compositional elements are those through threads, but this is very much us challenging ourselves musically and sonically and thematically to do something different. And I think that's a greater theme of the record as well, just in terms of trying to do something new and fresh and original. So I would say Friday is a sign of things to come, and the way that it's a turning point, that we're always going to continue to innovate and continue to change things.
That's awesome. Very exciting. I'm really excited to see what the new stuff sounds like. You're signed to a record label?
We're signed to BMLG. Big Machine, John Varvatos Records. So like the rock side of Big Machine Records.
Oh yeah, John Varvatos. Yeah, he added on like a record label, right?
Yeah.
Rad. Tell me about signing to that label. That must have been pretty cool.
It was very fun. It was, it was a great experience. We got to see LA for the first time and play a show out there. And yeah, it was just a really good time. So I have a question for you, Adam. Okay. So you said you're at your in-laws, right?
I'm at my in-laws currently. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name, but is Tara still here?
Yeah. She's my wife. She's inside with the children at her parents' house.
Okay, I was trying to figure out the configuration. I didn't want to make any assumptions, but I was like, I did my research and I thought that they were married.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. So my wife is Tara. She's inside her parents' house we have 2 kids, and because of the COVID thing, it's just been I've been doing a lot of the interviews because somebody has to watch the children.
Right. You guys are
So,
parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's just me, and she kind of chimes in, but she's recording it and producing it on the back end.
Awesome. Man.
Yeah. So it's been a while. I mean, you guys said that you were just doing an Instagram live. Have you been doing a lot of those things lately?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff, just trying to kind of redefine what content means in the year 2020. Trying to adapt and figure out the best way to move forward. Also, given the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been going on, but is like especially prevalent and important right now, and figuring out, okay, how do you produce content in a world where everyone is home, everyone is on their phones 100% of the time, basically, but also there are much more important things going on in the world than what kinds of music we're writing. So
Sure.
lots of interesting directions being figured out there.
Well, it's yeah. For me, I'm a very anxious person. I'm very open about that. And not in the, I don't know if there's a fun sense of that, but in a very serious way. You know, somebody that just gets panic attacks all the time, randomly, didn't understand what it was for a long time. And I understand there's so much, like Drew said, there's so many big things going on in the world right now that we have to pay attention to. But when people need to take a break and they need to go to those outlets of catharsis, in understanding that we are one of those outlets of catharsis, as small as we may be as a band, in creating good content and just being able to sort of, create something that eases the mind, or that makes people think. And on the other side of things, adding and using our platform as a stimulus for that, and being like, how do we get people to think and get conversations going and utilize the power that we've been granted by people that support us and got us where we are. And we are so lucky, man. We have such great fans. We have such a great team, and everybody supporting us that allows us to do this. And we've been trying to do it as much as possible.
With the new song coming out on Friday, was that something that you considered pushing back due to the current climate, or?
Well, yeah, it's funny. The music has been done and fully mixed since the last week of March. And I think, just with COVID and everything, we've, at least the label, kind of going back to your question too, like, how has it been signing? It's great to be working with a team who's kind of really in tune with things. Because obviously, with any kind of content release, there's a very delicate process of understanding, like, well, who else is putting out content? What is the optimal window? So also with bands, you have to like tour to support songs.
Sure.
And we can't tour. So it's definitely affected the release. Who's to say if it's good or bad? I feel like we're kind of learning as we go. But it has definitely pushed back in some way what we initially thought would be the release of the song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did that push back what will become the full project and stuff, you think?
Yeah, I think so. So I can't say too much right now, but there are a lot of other cool opportunities that are going to affect when the record comes out. And we can't announce certain things until other things are announced. So it's this like big chain reaction of announcements.
Sure.
So we will, more on that soon.
Stay tuned. More to come.
Diego.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for the new stuff. You said you guys have done some touring before?
Yeah. We did our first like official tour last summer. It would have ended just about a year ago.
Okay.
We did
How was that?
What's that?
How was that? Did you support somebody? How was the tour?
It was amazing. We have these awesome agents James and Scott at Pinnacle Entertainment. They're incredible, and they basically got us this short little tour. It was like 11 dates, 2 weeks, and we got to do Bunbury Festival, Bonnaroo, and back in Chicago. And we did like other dates in Ohio, in New York, and Vermont, coming back home to Chicago as headliners in small clubs, which was really cool because I know a lot of bands, when you do those kinds of tours, you're, first of 4, first of 3 on a bill, but to be headliners was really cool and a super just great experience as a small band to be like, wow, okay, we're doing the thing now. Like, we're checking off all of the boxes of like bands earning their stripes kind of thing. So it was a big like coming of age moment for the band in a way.
Yeah, it was eye-opening too. Like we're not trying to exaggerate here. We did a relatively small tour compared to what most people do. And to see shows in Burlington, Vermont, where people were coming out from Boston and New York City, and even shows in Chicago where people were flying out from Texas and driving up from Nashville and doing all this stuff. Like, it is so exciting, man. I cannot describe it, but it's the ultimate validation. Iggy Pop said that he does everything and has done everything that he's done because of other people, because of what they've shown him, and the validation and all of this that comes from it, but ultimately from the music itself and from the message. And you start to understand it when the goal expands. And that tour was just eye-opening. It was like, wow, that a room full of people in Burlington, Vermont, which is like, if you were to ask me to name cities in the US, that would probably be the last city that I say. Come out and have a good time, and it was just really, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just to like kind of build on that, but almost the antithesis of that, I think personally too, just knowing like no matter how many tickets you sell, it's not about that. It's like, for me, it's like, okay, wow, like you can go on, you do this date and you're away from your girlfriends or like your friends, and you missed whatever was going on in your hometown and you didn't make money for 2 weeks, whatever. The saving grace is like, wow, okay, I get to be in a van with my best friends and we play rock music every night. Like, that is like, what else could you ask for? That's so fucking cool. And especially like, I mean, it's going back to the whole coming of age thing. You watch all these like rockumentaries of bands and you read the autobiographies and you're just like, at least I did as a kid, and it's like, wow, like touring, it's a thing. And then you do it as the first time as a band, you're like, wow, this is weird as fuck, but it's also like, I can't believe I get to do it with my best friend. So it's just a cool thing.
Yeah, I can imagine that being pretty terrifying. Like you just said, Caleb, like what if like showing up to different places in different parts of the country that maybe you've never been to? Are there going to be people around? Are people going to be there? Like that it's all probably things that have to like run through your mind as you're getting to these venues and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, let there be no mystery. Like there is a marker of success in anything that you do. And for us, that happens to be on a very surface level. It happens to be people coming out to shows. But like, this was our first tour doing this. And whether the rooms were half filled or whether they were filled, it was every step of the way. It was amazing, and it was just, I felt so blessed to be out there, and I felt, I felt like I existed more than I ever have in my entire life. And that was a powerful feeling, and it drives you. You can only want more.
Do you think that is just from the energy of the crowds that you're playing to, or just the whole experience in general?
I think it's the whole feeling in general. That feeling that you get when you're driving down a beautiful road and it's like that magic hour of the afternoon. You can't really explain it, but it feels good.
Yeah.
It's that sort of feeling the whole time, nonstop, waking up, going to bed, whatever, dealing with a hangover, whatever it is. You're just like, I'm here and this is so wonderful. And I get to be with my best friends, like this handsome fellow right here.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for talking to me today. I can't wait to hear the new stuff when it comes out on Friday. And I have one more question for you each.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if you guys have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah. Something I always come back to is remember the reasons why you started doing everything in the first place. And hopefully it's because you love the process, because there are bad days and bad weeks and bad months and bad years, and you get knocked down a fuck ton and you send somebody a song that you think is great, but they hate it. And you book a show that you think is going to sell a fuck ton of tickets. You sell no tickets. And, you always think you're going to feel a certain way when you hit a certain metric, but you don't. And coming back to loving the process is the most important thing. Because if you can't show up and say, you know what? Nobody liked that song. Nobody went to that show. I didn't get that many followers. I didn't get that many likes, but you're able to be like, well, I'm just happy to be making music. I'm just happy to be making whatever I'm making and happy to be a part of this scene that has fostered whatever I have become. That is the key thing, I think, personally, and just remembering that loving the art is so important.
I like that.
That was good. I'm all emotional now. I'm going to piggyback off Drew, man. Until, the day that you're pushing daisies, you're going to be an aspiring artist. Your heroes, I'm sure that my hero, Julian Casablancas, for one, or to name one of them, is still an aspiring artist. There's a changing state of success. Once you reach the peak that you're looking at, you're going to see a peak beyond it that's even higher. But for me, I would say, don't be afraid to celebrate. The little things are really important. Celebrations are going to mark your success because everything else is going to change. So when you do something that you're proud of, don't be afraid to tell people. Don't be afraid to, hang out with your friends and be excited about it, because that's the only thing that you're going to probably remember, when you're thinking back to it.